And we are back, and it is time for my ElseViews. And this is partially because I went on a trip. I went up north, actually. For those of you guys who do not know, I live in that great state that's shaped like a mitten, and not Kansas or not Wisconsin, but Michigan. And I went up north with my grandma because we did, as I think I've said on here on air, but one of her goals is she wants to see every single lighthouse in Michigan. Michigan, for people who don't know, actually has more lighthouses than any other state, from what I have heard people say. And so
because
we went
there's
up
a lot of water. There's a lot of lakes.
Yeah. Well, actually, the other thing that I didn't even think of is, do you know that there is not really a Lake Michigan and a Lake Huron? It is one lake.
Yeah.
Because people look at, the Straits of Mackinac. It's all one level plain. So therefore, it is one water mass. Where if you go from Lake Huron to Lake Erie, and then Lake Ontario, there's, changes in the water levels and stuff like that. And actually, I'm stealing this from the guy because me and my grandma, we went up to Mackinac City. We did the boat tour. So we went out and saw like 4 lighthouses. Actually saw the 5th one that's on the extended tour from like way far away. It's like one of those, like, if you had a telescope you could see it sort of things. And he said, the guy was talking about this stuff, and it was really cool just hearing first off, this is a guy, I told him afterwards, I'm like, you bring such a passion to this to where I was on every word you were talking about. And a lot of it was because he's got a geography background, and so he was bringing in a lot of the science stuff to it. And I'm just like, this dude is great, almost like Neil deGrasse Tyson. With how Neil deGrasse Tyson talks. And I told him, like, dude, you need to be on a Nerdist podcast, because that's what he reminded me of, is those Nerdist podcasts where Chris Hardwick has a science guy on there, a scientist, and you just hear Chris become a student, not, the chat sessions that he has with his friends with Jonah and Matt, or, when he's interviewing a celebrity, who he may or may not be friends with outside of doing the podcast. But the dude was awesome, and I really wish I remembered his name, but I don't. But that's not what I'm going to talk about, because that was something I did for my grandma. And I like sharing that moment with her, taking almost all of her photos, I think, of so much so that when I went to show a friend, I'm like, I thought I took more photos. Oh, I did. I just used my grandma's phone instead of mine. But one of the places I'm going to talk about is when I went in there, I immediately thought of the network. Like, driving down the road, because we got there, really early, and we're driving down, and I'm like, what is this place? I want to go in that place. And then eventually, like, we had enough time, I'm like, Grandma, I want to go there. She's like, all right. And it's called Mystery Town USA. The website is mysterytownusa.com, and they're modeling themselves after the tourist traps of Route 66. So, like the world's biggest ball of yarn, and all that stuff that you would see as you're going down Route 66. But they focus on more of the paranormal. So the way it sets up, like, you go into the gift shop, and there's a shirt that I want Brad and I want Matt to get, where it's an alien holding a beer stein, and it says, "Take me to your leecher." And I'm like, Dad, they would love that shirt. So you go in, you do the little thing as you're walking around, and it's built for all ages. It's really cool. But you sit down, they tell you the stuff behind why they did this, and also why they chose Mackinac City. You then go to, like, they're just saying, go into this just believing the fun. It's all going to be fun, so just believe in it. And really, you have to. It's going to be one of these things where we can't confirm or deny that Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot exist, or what's going on in Area 51 and stuff like that, Bermuda Triangle. But all these things, it's fun to just believe that they happen and that they're there. So you start out, after you go through the bookcase that opens up, because what great place doesn't start with that? You can take your time and read all the stuff. I skimmed a lot of it, but I'm like, all right. For those of you guys who are friends with me on Facebook, this is actually my Facebook profile picture, but it's you go through this portal, and you got a stairway, tube going around to where your brain's like, huh? You're spinning, fucker. And all that. I had to gather myself twice before going through, because, like, I look and my brain's like, for audio listeners, I'm rotating my head around trying to keep with the tube. But you go through the Bermuda Triangle, the quote-unquote Bermuda Triangle, and then you end up in Area 51, complete with, like, all this, like, put your hands in this and pick up space rocks and stuff like that. There's aliens all over the place. It's really cool, really tourist trappy, but in a fun way. Cut to that, you then go to, I believe it's Atlantis. But basically, you hit Atlantis, Bigfoot up in the Pacific Northwest. Both of those, they actually have, the mermaid call and the Bigfoot call. My favorite ones was Loch Ness, because I kept going through there like, this isn't a jump scare one. In my head, the running commentary was, something's going to jump out. I know something's going to jump out at me, right? This is one of those jump scare places, and they didn't tell me. But nothing ever jumped out at me. But you're going through the Loch Ness with all these things hanging down, and it's a little bit like a maze. And then you go to that into a black hole. Now, how they did the black hole is really cool, because it honestly does its best to simulate what it's like to go theoretically what it's like to go into a black hole. They had two big, those inflatable bounce house things that just blow up, and they're pushing on you on the sides, and you walk through. I walked through with my hand out in front of me, like, just so I wasn't like, at the other end. It's like my hand to break free. I'm like, I'm free. I've been birthed and stuff like that, as opposed to and wall. And that was one of the coolest experiences ever, because I'm in this tube, this doorway, and I can't see anything. I can't see my hand in front of my face at all. And it's really cool. I left that saying that I want to go back with my mom and with my niece. My niece, because I think she would love some of that stuff, especially if we go a couple years later when she's 4. And there'll be some things like, oh, hey, we'll take your picture. Look, you're a mermaid and stuff like that. And then my mom, just so she goes through that black hole thing and see if she freaks out because I'm an asshole. But yeah, so that's Mystery Town, USA. It's with how they talked in the video, I was expecting there to be like, which location? But it's only there. I honestly want this to be in more locations, because it's such a fun little thing that you could see in a mall, like a little pop-up store thing where they have all these things, and they have all the exhibits and you go through. But yeah, it was really cool. The second thing I'm going to talk about is a show that I have talked about before in previous incarnations, and that is Top Gear America. Now, they finished their first season, and this is the rebranded Top Gear through the BBC America, not History Channel like it was before. So they got 3 new hosts. And right off the bat, I wanted to talk about this for the past 8 weeks. I honestly have. But I've been like, no, let's wait. Let's hold off. Because, let's be honest. I talk a lot about these shows. I talk a lot about the Grand Tour, about Top Gear UK, because I love cars. And so it's cool to get this show and it not suck. Like, as an American, I am now spoiled with car race or car motoring shows. The people who are on there, the hosts, you have William Fichtner. He was on Prison Break, and he's actually a really big name Hollywood guy. Antron Brown, who is a NHRA dragster, top field dragster racer, and the third guy, he's the only British guy on there. He's Tom Wookie Ford. He is a car reviewer, I think, for like a couple different magazines over in the UK. And I love this show. I love how they did this. They kept it similar to Top Gear UK, but made it different. And Beat has a quote in here that he doesn't care about cars at all, but Top Gear he absolutely loves. It's the personalities. I don't know if you've seen Top Gear America, but I think you would like the personalities here with these guys too, because they have, for the first you can tell, like, with the first couple episodes, that they were still getting to know each other a little bit. They instantly had this chemistry that was where when they picked on each other, it wasn't like, here's in the script where it says, I pick on Wookiee or whatever. It was like, they're just having fun. Like the first episode, they're in dune buggies, doing a Baja 3000 style race up Baja, Mexico over the border and stuff like that. The last episode, they actually went, Tom Wookie Ford did a review of the Mercedes-Benz AMG, a lot like their line of cars that they've got coming out at the Top Gear UK track. So in Dunsfold, England, there's no, oh, well, UK is better. They're all good. We can quit with that argument now. It's just gonna be a matter of, sitting down and watching them. Those are my picks. Those are my ElseViews. Corey, as you notice, has been relatively quiet. It's because he doesn't have one unless he came up with one now. But yeah, so and he needs the vocal rest because we're gonna have the ElseWords coming up here. So that's how it goes. But yeah, so we will be right back.
The galaxy far, far away feels closer now than ever before, and your guides through this galaxy are ready to help. I'm Zach Hagenbusher, one half of the new Jedi Archives podcast with Ben Schultz. Join us every other Tuesday for our experiences with the Star Wars saga, from the core films that we know and love, well, some of them, to the annals of history and the works that shaped Star Wars into what we know it as today. Just jump in wherever you'd like. Download an episode of the new Jedi Archives today.
For more on this Galactic Network podcast, go to gncast.com. That's gncast.com.